Hey, this is Soundus. I listened to Miley Cyrus's Zane Lowe interview in anticipation of her new album, Something Beautiful, coming out. They had a little bit of a retrospective chat about her career, and they focused on her album as well. She described the last 20 years of her career as being like white noise, and now she's extracting and dissecting individual frequencies, and so she's really able to hone in. She got Best Pop Solo Performance and Record of the Year. She mentioned how it was a moment where she was finally able to receive something tangible. After, I'm sure, going to tons of award shows and being nominated but not receiving the reward, she really appreciated having something tangible to show that she'd won. She described it as a band-aid on a broken heart, which, if you don't know, Flowers is the song that she wrote about the dissolution of her marriage to Liam Hemsworth. I believe they also lost their home, which burned down in a fire during the course of their marriage. She mentions that post-COVID she was experiencing a lot of anxiety around performing and being in spaces with a bunch of people, and so she started to dip her toe back into performing by doing small shows at the Chateau Marmont. It sounds like she started doing some work on the new album about 2 years ago. After she wrote Something Beautiful, she played it for Dolly Parton at Christmas, to which Dolly replied, "You got any hits?" And so then she mentioned More to Lose, which she only had the title for. She hadn't actually written the song, but once she'd mentioned it, she realized she had to hit the ground running and start creating the song for it, since she'd already mentioned it to Dolly. During that conversation, she also mentioned the song Every Girl You've Ever Loved. She and Zayn also touched on the fact that she hasn't toured consistently for about 10 years now. The reason being that live performances are extremely physically taxing, and she's experienced Reiki's edema, which is a vocal cord disorder. So basically she has a polyp on her vocal cords. She contracted this condition around age 21 because a lot of the time it comes from drinking, smoking, and partying. On the one hand, she said it's what's given her the texture and unique quality of her voice, so she doesn't want to have any kind of procedure to fix her vocal cords, but it can also be a hindrance for her when talking and for singing. She's an artist who writes these big kind of anthemic songs that have a lot of power and emotion behind them, and so her voice physically can't do that much consistent touring without wear and tear, and I'm sure her body experiences a lot of wear and tear, not to mention the stress that goes along with touring and being on the road all the time. To kind of remedy this lack of touring for her fans, she mentioned how she wanted to do something called Somewhere Beautiful, where she would perform in small, intimate, really beautiful spaces. She mentioned how she had the idea of performing in somewhere like a forest. And I guess she'd had a conversation with Harrison Ford, and he kind of reasoned with her that the optics of actually performing in a place like a forest might be a little bit too difficult. So I don't know if she tabled the idea of doing those performances in kind of unique, beautiful spaces, but she did mention that she had the idea of creating a film as a replacement for the tour. She mentioned how back in the day she was kind of a more accessible artist just because of the fact that she was on TV, so all her fans got to see her all the time. And she kind of had that girl next door kind of a vibe because of that accessibility, while also being a gigantic pop star, a la Hannah Montana. Miley's kind of one of those artists for the ages. I think that since she was on the Disney path, she definitely could have been pigeonholed, although 2013 kind of helped her break out. I know it was probably a really hard time in her career because she got a lot of criticism for her performance with Robin Thicke, but I don't think personality-wise she's someone who ever could be pigeonholed. So she's one of those artists who's really fascinating to listen to just because she's incredibly seasoned. She's experienced so much, but she's not jaded, and she expresses herself beautifully both in her music and in her interviews. You can tell that she's a very wise soul.